Hi, this is Eric with the Sign Industry Podcast. Today we're talking with San Francisco Neon. We're talking with Al and Randall. How are you? Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. I think we're great. How about you?
Yeah, it's fun to meet you, and be part of this show. So thanks for inviting us.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this is one of the things. This is an interview I've been looking forward to for a long time. When I started in the industry, I started in bending neon. I was like in my 17, 18 years old, started to learn how to bend neon from an old guy, an old neon bender. But I haven't done it probably 30 years, so I'm a little rusty.
It's too hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
So
really admire people who are good at it. We thought we'd learn it and try it and realize we'll leave it to the expert.
well, I am definitely not that. So, hey, tell us a little bit about San Francisco Neon, what you're all about.
You want to take that?
Yeah, well, we have been advocating and celebrating vintage neon, basically the past and the future of neon. In San Francisco, which is the town we live in and love. And so it's just the two of us. We're a tiny nonprofit, and we started in officially as like a organization in 2015. But before that, we worked about 6 or 8 years photographing and putting together a book that we called San Francisco Neon, Survivors and Lost Icons.
That's right.
And we thought we were the only people in the world that cared about neon. And we wanted to do this book because San Francisco was losing vintage neon signs so quickly, we wanted to document them. And we did that. We got ready to go to press 2014, right when Kickstarter was new. And I'm a book designer and I've produced a lot of books. So I knew how to, I knew we could self-publish, that I knew how to do that. We just didn't know if we had an audience out there. So our Kickstarter got funded in 14 days by people all over the world, which blew our minds.
We had no idea there was that much interest in neon. So that was a real pleasant surprise.
So our first 1,000 books sold like that, which was so fun.
Yeah.
And it took us 8 years to sell the next 3,000 books, but what we no, I think that's, again, no distributor, just by meeting people who love the city and love neon. But really what we got from Kickstarter is not so much the money to do the book, but we got a community, and that is the really inspirational thing, that there's this really growing movement of people that think that these vintage signs are big part of the fabric of their cities and towns.
Yeah, and that they're worth saving, worth preserving. And that led us to do our annual symposium and festival called Neon Speaks, where we pull as many of those people together as we can for presentations, events, walking tours,
shop tours, behind the scene tours.
Yeah.
It's a time where we all get together and share information and celebrate this passion we have to not only save these signs, and that's the other inspirational thing, is behind every vintage sign, there's almost always a mom and pop business.
Right.
And that's the real heart and soul of what this neon thing is all about, because those are the businesses that keep these neon signs glowing.
Right. So in our walking tours, we don't just feature the signs. We reach out to the business owners whenever we can, or to the families, and we get a lot of information and a lot of stories and a lot of history from those people about their families' businesses and the signs. And it just makes the whole thing a little more substantial than just looking at the sign for the sake of looking at the sign.
And it keeps us connected to our neighborhoods. And, in our city, we do walking tours in 7 different neighborhoods in San Francisco and 1 in Alameda across the bay. And we never get tourists. Almost all of the people come on our walking tours are either locals or live in the Bay Area. So it's a way to connect to like-minded people in the city that we live in, that's the coolest part.
But tourists are certainly welcome.
Tourists are welcome.
I was in San Francisco quite a while ago, as a matter of fact, and I was there for just because we wanted to go to San Francisco. And that's one of the things I noticed quite a bit was all the neon that you guys have around there. You
Yeah.
don't see that in the Midwest where I'm from, Michigan area, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois. You don't really see that much neon anymore. Neon's kind of a lost art. It's hard to find neon benders these days. They're
Well,
few and
there
far
are
between.
more young ones coming up.
Yes,
That's for
there is.
certain.
That's the
Yeah.
cool part about it. Yeah.
And there are a couple universities that have great teachers that are turning out some really talented tube benders.
Mhm.
Sarah Blood at, where's Sarah?
Alfred University in
University?
upstate New York. They've cranked out quite a few talented tube benders and
Yeah.
artists.
Adam
recently.
Taylor is here, and also Ames Palms.
Ames went to
Mhm.
Alfred as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things to where it went away for a long time and now it's
Oh, yeah.
starting to come back slowly, but people are getting I guess the yearning for that old look because LED lighting just does not do it.
Don't get us started.
Yeah, it's great. It's great in your refrigerator.
It's great in your
Yeah,
but,
refrigerator.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
But for a commercial signage application, we have no
There's
no use for it. I
And
guess.
there's no way to match the quality of the
No.
neon.
Right. Yeah.
And also just that feeling, because it's all these electrons bouncing around,
Mm-hmm.
it's got this Frankenstein feeling of it's
Yeah, it's
alive.
got that vibration to it. That
Yeah,
you
it's
can
an
feel.
alchemical process in a lot of ways.
And
Yeah.
so fascinating that it's not so different from the Northern Lights. Again, it's energized particles.
Yeah.
I've never heard it explained that way. That's really cool.
Well,
I like
neon
that.
comes from the stars.
Yeah, it does.
So that
Yeah.
we're like, what's not to like?
Yeah. When I first started into the sign industry, I did everything by myself when I was younger, but then I started to work for a guy by the name of Warren Libke. And Warren was a tube bender for many, many years. He was in his 70s when I went to work for him when I was just in my late teens. And then I remember one call that we got from some commercial place down the road, and they said, "Yeah, we got a tube out. We need you to come look at it." Blah blah blah. He went down, and got it. The neon that he had, the neon sign that we had brought that piece back from, he had done 40 years earlier and never had to do anything to it. And that
You
was
know,
the
No
first
service
time.
calls.
One
Yeah.
things we like to say is, 5 years is a long time for LED. It's a blink of the eye for neon.
Yeah. If it's
Yeah.
done right, it'll last for years and years, decades. you
Yeah,
know?
we've got signs here in San Francisco that are 80, 85 years old and still working, still illuminating.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's just amazing. I also noticed you guys on your website, not only do you have really cool t-shirts, but you also have lapel pins. I've noticed. I'm gonna get some of those. Those are really cool.
Yeah. SF for San Francisco, sfneon.org.
Mm-hmm.
And what we love about those lapel pins, they're made with the same materials as signs. They're nickel, metal, and porcelain.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a legacy business program in San Francisco that actually gives rent stabilization to these mom and pop businesses that have been around. So most of the lapel pins are there to promote those legacy businesses. So that's really fun.
Yeah, it's a great idea. A matter of fact, I was looking at that and I was telling my son the other day, I says, these guys got these really cool lapel pins. I should probably do something like that with all the stuff I do. And he's like, that'd probably be a good idea. But we may do that because I've done, I've designed and built 36 historic theater marquees. And
Congratulations, that's awesome.
yeah, and
That's quite a number. Wow, that's impressive.
yeah. A matter of fact, I was going to be working on the Castro. I was invited to work on the Castro through Evergreen Architectural Arts. And the architect that was involved in all that. And I'm like, that's too far away from me for one. And
Yeah.
I'm sure there's other people out there that have a lot more time and talent than I do to do that.
I'm making Al raise his hand because he's on a hard hat.
Yeah,
I saw that. I saw that picture. Yeah.
It was lots of fun, but it was really nerve-wracking. Some of the 12-foot piece of glass with curly cues and snails.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you don't want to be the guy who breaks it as you're handing it up through the levels of the scaffold.
Oh, yeah.
But it happened without a hitch.
We did a great job. Well, that was through Neon Works,
And Tim Rizzo and Nate Macy,
Yeah.
great
it's
sign restorers.
it's done well and it's done right. It looks beautiful. It's lit now.
Yeah, a
Karen
friend.
Heisler was on that team
Karen
too,
Heisler is
Mhm.
two bender.
as well as Adam Taylor. So
A lot
yeah.
of big names out there. Some of those names I recognize actually.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Karen Heisler had the company Neon a couple decades ago, but she taught Jim Rizzo how to bend glass and a lot of other people.
Yeah. So she'll
She's a
come
treasure.
out, she'll work on projects,
If
occasionally.
it's something cool like the Castro.
Yeah. Matter of fact, a friend of mine by the name of Mark Cello, he owns Mark Cello Design. He's also known as Mr. Neon in the area. He actually went out there, I think last week or the week before. He had some other business that he had to take care of out there, but he spent like 3 or 4 hours just watching from across the street. And yeah, he probably saw you. So
Yeah, I probably saw him.
yeah.
It's such an iconic movie theater. Not only represents the neighborhood, the gay culture of that neighborhood, but it's also an icon for cinemanistas. How do you say that?
Cinestas.
Yeah.
Well, also, it was
Yeah.
designed by
people.
one of San Francisco's most prominent architects at the time, Timothy Pfluger.
Mhm.
So, working on a building that he was involved with is kind of a privilege to begin with.
Oh, absolutely.
Working on the neon, so.
Yeah, I whenever I'm doing a theater project, I research the history of it. I have to. And my favorite architect was a gentleman by the name of Lamb. And he did the 7 grand architects, what they call the 7 grand architectural theaters of the East Coast, like the really grand theaters to where you walk in and I mean the ceilings are 30 feet tall and they're just covered with, hand carved everything, and the marquees are just massively huge. And yeah, I love the history of the theaters and all that, and especially the neon portion of it. Getting back to neon, the retro signage from back in the 50s into the 60s for motels along uh the California coast. Have you ever seen any of those retro type signage with the neon? I'm sure you guys got stuff like that around there,
Well,
retro
there's
type stuff.
one, what's it called? The Ocean Park Motel in San Francisco, which is only a block or two from Ocean Beach.
Mm-hmm.
Has a beautiful sign and designed by the guy who bought and now owns the motel.
Who is the son of the owner? So he wanted the motel to have a retro sign, and so he designed that, I think, in the 60s. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's an
Cool.
Art Deco style, or more like a streamlined modern building,
Mhm.
and the sign design matches that or complements that. And they keep that sign up and running, which is a challenge because of the salt air out there.
Yeah, and he
Oh,
had
yeah.
to bolt it into his closet, so he's so dedicated. But there are a lot more going down the coast. There's the Pink Motel, which is super famous. And of course the Seashell Motel.
The seashell, yeah, Pismo Beach has a couple of nice neon motel signs.
Santa Cruz has great old neon. That's another great beach city.
Yeah, there's still quite a bit.
All right. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to ask you about a couple of projects and one that I wrote a letter on to help you guys out. And I want to find out what happened with that. So,
Right.
Okay.
all right, we'll be right back. This is Eric with the Sign Industry Podcast.
The Van Ladder Bucket Truck simplifies your sign installation and service work. A winner of the ISA's Innovation Award, Chariot Bucket has a rotating fork system with an assortment of super useful accessories, giving you an extra set of hands at the job site. And with 6 different outside compartments and a huge project area inside, the Workport box is a traveling warehouse. No more running for parts. Finally, all-electric van ladder operates without the vehicle running, giving you a quiet day's work without stinky fumes. You can check it out at www.vanladder.com.
Welcome back to the Sign Industry Podcast. This is Eric, and I'm speaking with Al and Randall Ann of San Francisco Neon. And we're having a very nice conversation about historic and just really cool neon stuff. And one of the things that I you guys, I subscribed to the newsletter, and you had a thing in there about the Palace Hotel, the neon sign on the roof there. They were going to go to neon. What happened with that? Did
There's
that?
actually two. They're twin signs, which is even more amazing.
Yeah. For just a little side note, the letters "the" on the Palace Hotel sign were salvaged from the word Sheridan, because for up until the early 90s it was a Sheridan Palace Hotel. So they were able to they kept the THE and took the rest of it down, and now it spells the Palace.
And the sign is so big, just the T.
Oh yeah, it's massive.
It's like 5 feet. It's like almost twice as tall as a
And
person.
they're porcelain letters.
And they're white porcelain. They're amazing. It's they're scaffold roof signs
Very heavy too.
on a very historic and important hotel in San Francisco. The Palace Hotel has always been a great place for birthdays and special events. When Al and I got married, we had our wedding lunch. We got married at City Hall and had our wedding lunch at the Palace. And so that's one reason that we just advocated so hard when we found out a permit had been issued to convert the neon sign to LED.
Yeah, and it was an over-the-counter permit, or OTC permit, which seemed highly unusual for a building with that reputation, that history, to be able to just get a over-the-counter permit and walk out and tear the neon off and replace it with LED. So we were notified by a local journalist who does a lot of architectural reviews.
John King, he's great.
And so we looked into it, and we contacted the president of the San Francisco Board of Supervisors, who is a huge neon fan. And he contacted the city planning department. And so they put the brakes on it, said, okay, we do need to review this. So it ended up going before the San Francisco Historic Preservation Commission. And that started back in April.
It was really, we had no idea it would turn into such a big hoo-ha, which it did, which in the long run is good. There was a lot of discussion. There are 270 letters written by followers of our newsletter and other San Francisco newsletters. So that made a really big impression on them. And I think it made it a very tough choice for the commissioners, and they kept delaying it. But we finally got a decision. It was last Wednesday, June 5th. Wasn't exactly what we were hoping for, but this was the interesting part. They had a vote whether to approve the permit as is for a permanent conversion from neon to LED, and they voted that down. Every single commissioner said no. But this is the kind of hard thing for neon preservationists to understand. They did approve an LED conversion for 7 years. And then they have to come back to the commission and decide whether it should be returned to neon. Now, part of the thinking on that is that the Palace Hotel needs time to still recover financially from the pandemic, where they had 800 employees before. They're still down to 400. So they have a ways to come back, and we understand that and are very sympathetic to that. But like we mentioned earlier, 7 years is a lifetime for LED.
Right.
It could really be dimming out and destroyed by the sun by then. And as we say, it's nothing for a neon sign, 5 years.
Yeah.
No, particularly with a good maintenance program, you can keep it going indefinitely
for generations.
So it's not a compromise that we were happy with, but
it was better than just permanent LED.
Yeah, at least they didn't close the door on you.
They didn't close the door.
They kind of, maybe you could say, kicked it down the road
a little bit.
Yeah.
Might be a whole different
Kick the neon down the road.
Decision in 7 years. But we really felt listened to, and that was important.
That's good. Yeah, who knows? Maybe that particular instance is something that will open the door for other things when it comes up. People will get a closer look at it next time.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah. So we exactly, as well spoken. That's exactly what we're taking away from is that the neon projects will get a closer look next time.
And the permitting officers realize, oh, if this is neon a historic building, people will start writing letters. They
Right.
know that now.
Yeah.
yeah,
Good.
part of their approval was the fact they said, well, from that distance from the rooftop, you're down on the sidewalk, you won't be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, you
And a
can.
lot of the argument against that was, well, we know that's not true, but some of the argument was, well, does that mean instead of replacing the marble facade, you replace it with paper mache? It looks like marble.
Can't tell the difference.
So
That's
it seemed like
awesome.
neon was getting this special unfair treatment.
That it wasn't
Right.
considered, you know, a historic and appropriate material
Right.
like marble and stone would get.
Yeah,
That's
so
that's
it's
awesome.
the National Park Service's bulletins where they talk about replacing with like materials. And that's the thing that we find ironic is the LED industry calls their products neon-like.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're still trying to sell it off the merits of neon, but you're putting out a plastic product that's made with petrochemicals, and the
Right.
sun will do a number on it, and it's not a recyclable product at all.
That's
I
true.
guess you can tell where we stand on LED.
I'm right there with you to a certain point. I understand where people come from because, you know, it's a little less expensive to run and whatnot. But at the same time, when it boils right down to it, I'm a neon guy. I mean, I'd much rather put neon on one of my projects than LED, but you know, you got to go with what the customer wants, and that's what you
And
got.
but it's
Yeah.
also can be considered a really important part of brand,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's something authentic and historic rather than something new and plastic and cheap. And that's another thing we really tried to talk to the Palace Hotel about, and they were gracious enough to have 2 meetings with us, which was we really appreciated.
Well, that was good. Well, let's jump forward a little bit. You've got a project coming up September 7th and 8th and 14th and 15th. Let's talk about that for a little bit. What you got going on?
Well, this will be our 6th annual Neon Speaks Symposium and Festival.
Mm-hmm.
We use the two terms, symposium and festival, so that people won't run away when they hear the word symposium. They can't sit through that. So we do a lot of events. You want to?
Yeah, I mean, it's both fun and important, and that's the festival and symposium part, but it's really the opportunity for San Franciscans, and then of course we have a really great group of neon preservationists that come up to San Francisco every year. And we hear a lot of interesting presentations and also just have social time to actually have people talk to each other, meet each other. A lot of friendships and partnerships have been formed at Neon Speaks, where people say, do you want to drive to Montana and save that sign? Let's go.
Let's go. Road trip.
Yeah,
They do it.
that was, actually that was Eric Linksweiler from Mona down in Glendale, and Will Durham from Nevada Neon in Reno. So what we have coming up on Saturday the 7th is the online symposium that everybody from around the world can join. And we hope to have participants both from Canada and from Asia. Hopefully we'll get a couple of our preservationist friends from Europe, and even Australia to join in. So that is the very international day on September 7th.
What's the website for that so people can?
That is Neon Speaks. That's NEONSPEAKS.org.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah, and so we'll have ticketing up there so you can get a passport to all the online events. And then the next day will be in the East Bay of San Francisco in Oakland, and that's a tour of a wonderful neon shop, Neon Works, run by Jim Rizzo, who has collected all the, it seems like all the discarded signs in the Bay Area and has restored them, and they're up in his shop. Plus he has a boneyard.
Wow. So he's got his own sign museum going on.
Yes,
He really does.
in a working shop. So it's a great tour for people who want to know more about neon.
We bring 93 people, 90 people through once a year. Every ticket, it's always sold out. And Jim doesn't really allow people to come visit except when we do a tour, and he's like, I'll make it happen once a year for you guys. So it's really a great opportunity to see a working neon sign shop and also get a demo by Adam Taylor
Tube bender.
of tube bending, of putting that glass in the fire and seeing how the magic happens.
Yeah, there's nothing like seeing it live. I mean,
Yeah.
you know what I always thought would be a really cool show is a neon bending show. I mean, you see the glass blowing shows on Netflix.
Yeah.
Why not do a neon bending show or neon art or something?
That's a
That's so
great
cool.
suggestion for the Neon Tube Benders Guild.
Yeah.
Which is out there, which you may know, Danielle James and all those great people who do that. But I'm going to challenge Danielle to do that.
Sign me up. I'll help. That'd be a lot of fun.
She's very dynamic.
She's a great video producer too. So
yeah.
Let's talk about one of the tours that you have. You've got a couple of them, the North Beach tour, but the one that I did on my own when I was out there was the Chinatown tour. Let's talk about a little bit about the Chinatown tour. What exactly, if somebody were to come out and take one of your tours, let's say the Chinatown tour, how does that work? What do you guys do?
Well, the Chinatown tour is one of our favorites.
And the most popular.
There's a lot of history there. Not all of the signs we look at illuminate, but the design quality, the history of the signs make it really interesting.
They're very old, and they're all bilingual.
And so we start right before twilight, so you can see the signs that don't light up while we still have available daylight. And we finish under the signs that do light up. And there's a lot of history there. And we got to do an even deeper dive into Chinatown history and culture during the pandemic, where we pivoted to doing online tours.
And we partnered with the Chinese Historical Society of America and worked with some of their history interns, young people. And that was just a great way for us to learn about that neighborhood from them, and for them to learn about neon from us and how important it is to save what they've got.
Right. And then when we would hear from people who watched the tour online, and they say, well, that you talked about my grandfather's store. Here's a photo of my grandfather as a young man when he started the business.
Oh, wow.
So it just it gave us a lot more material to work with, and made us feel more welcome in the neighborhood, and that people were accepted with it by the neighborhood.
Yeah, and really through Facebook and through the Chinese Historical Society of America, we've really gotten some amazing connections to family members in the neighborhood. I'll just give you a little, so it's so far beyond just looking at signs. There's a great sign called the Golden Star Radio, and found out from the grandson that it was started by Tommy and May Chintong, and it was always her dream to be a newscaster. So he built a radio station for her, and it was the first Chinese language news station in North America. And
they had a 40-year run on
They
air.
did, and the sign is still there.
Wow.
And then now the great grandson has a tattoo studio on the ground floor. So it's just so cool. It's the Golden Star Tattoo Studio. So stories like that, we just love featuring not only the signs, but the families and how those businesses were really important to the neighborhood.
Yeah, so that's about that's a pretty good overview of our Chinatown tour, and we try to do that on every tour in every neighborhood. I dig as deep as we can.
And we also talk about, Al's a street photographer, I'm a graphic designer, so we really always talk about the aesthetics of the sign and how the sign is made. And if you don't know anything about neon, we're gonna get you started on understanding all the basics, and we just do it step by step along the way in the tour.
Very cool. Well, I wish I had some more time, but I'm running out of time actually. I would really like you guys to come back on the show here in the fall, maybe right after your symposium and festival, if you don't mind. I can get a hold of you then.
Oh, that would be great.
I'm good. I'd really like to try to make it out there myself if I can. Give us your social media sites where we can see some of the things that you're doing.
Well, Neon Speaks is we're on Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
And also that's the same handle for Facebook. And then for everything local San Francisco that has to do with neon, that's easy. S for San Francisco, F for San
Francisco.
Francisco, right? So it's hard to say SF on
Yeah,
air. sfneon.org.
Okay.
Where the tours are and anything we're doing locally in the city.
And that's where you can sign up or register for the newsletter.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely do that. I've done that. You guys got a lot of good information on there. Well, thank you very much for stopping in with this little podcast we have here. And I appreciate your time and your diligence and I mean, you guys are doing some really cool work out there, showing people what neon is and preserving the history. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well,
thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Aaron.
thanks for having us.
It's
It's
been a
always
pleasure.
good to make another neon friend.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, thank you very much for stopping in, and we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, take
Bye.
care.
Thanks.